How's it going, bud?
It's going good.
I love it. So, you know what I'm gonna ask you to do?
Yes,
Billie Jean for a little bit, put a crash on the one every few bars, and I'm gonna dawdle some sounds in.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy. So at this juncture, I'm gonna do is I'm going to solo out each microphone and get a level, and then do an EQ on it. So I'm gonna take off my drum edit, go over here, and solo out just the kick drum. There we go. You can kind of see here. We can dial this in. So I have a pad on this, so I can really gain stage my preamp. I really want to hear this API console. I love API consoles. I love API pre's. I love API EQs. If I put a pad on and move the fader down a bit, then what that does is it gives me way more room on the preamp to hear the character of the console, right? And on this tune, it's a pretty big rock and roll production, as you're gonna hear. It's a pop song, but it's an alternative pop rock song. I really want some good character out of this drum set inside of the mix. So this looks pretty good for a level on the inside kick drum. Drummers will always play harder when they're in the track, so it won't be a surprise to me that during the first pass or two, if I'm still revising my sounds, at least my level. I'm boosting a little 8K on this, and actually, let me see. Maybe a little bit too much. There we go. And I'm actually cutting some 40 on this. And what that does is it makes room for what will end up being the other kick drum mic. So I'm boosting top end on the D112 and cutting some low end on my inside kick drum mic. Again, I've refrained from saying the D112 because your inside kick drum mic is not gonna be that. As a matter of fact, this EQ curve, I'm not gonna go super in depth on these EQ curves because this really only applies to this setup, you know? If I were to set this up tomorrow, these EQ curves may not ring true, and especially if I'm in a different song, and those are gonna change. So I'm not gonna focus too much on my EQ curves because again, I don't think this is a copy and paste thing. I never do the same drum setup twice. So there is that. So there we go. So that's the inside kick drum. We're gonna go through and hear the outside kick drum here. So this is a little loud, so we're gonna pull this back on the preamp a little bit. And on the fader as well. Go. I'm cutting some top end on this and some boosting some low end. So doing literally the opposite of what I'm doing the D112. I'm doing the opposite of the U87. What that does is it makes them work together so they become one fluid sound. We're gonna check the phase correlation here. So when I flip the phase, I lose low end, which means that they are in phase because I'm getting the most low end out of the sound sources. We're gonna go to the sub mic now. So this is very low toned. We're gonna back off that a little bit, add some more gain. Generally speaking, these sub microphones are really hot. So we're gonna put in the other microphones, kick drum microphones, and flip the phase on this and make sure our phase is good. Seems pretty good. We're gonna visually check it a bit too. So we're gonna keep them all like that and we'll check in a bit. For me, there's a little bit too much inside kick drum mic on my drum mix, but this is just for tracking. Cool. So snare top one. Now you can hear already the isolation on that snare and the hi-hat. He's slamming that hi-hat right now, and we're getting next to no bleed in the snare top. I can't stress enough, mic placement does the work for you. I'm not gating, there's no gate, there's nothing on that. There's just some EQ on that right now, which I'm adding a little bit of 8K, 7K, sorry, a little 7K, boosting a little, and cutting some low end out of the 201. Pretty good. Okay, then we're gonna skip to the M81. We tuned this snare drum before the session and it sounds like we're pretty good. I'm not hearing any crazy ring. This is the M81 now. Boosting a little top end at 10K and boosting some 200 hertz. A little too much, there we go, okay. The level is a little hot, so we're gonna back off for just a touch. Cool, looks good, sounds good. Like, see those together? Great. Now you can hear when I flip the phase, these are taped together. Do you hear how we lose a lot? Not only do we lose volume, like actual physical volume, but we lose the whole sound of the snare drum with the phase flip. There it is. See, all the low end, all the crack, all of that disappears. So that's how you know it's exactly in phase. Snare bottom. Probably my least favorite microphone, but like I said, it's necessary. And you can kind of hear a little bit of that kick drum in there. Just a little bit, you know? So it's a little hard to hear when I flip the phase on the bottom mic, if anything's happening. We're gonna check it visually in Pro Tools, and I'll show you what that means in a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and keep it flipped for the time being, as I think I'm perceiving a little bit more low end punch with the snare bottom flipped. So we're gonna go ahead and plan on that. Next are the overheads. That's a beautiful sound. I mean, that's just the overheads. There is some compression on there, that's 1178 on there, but it's just touching 1 dB right now. I mean, next to no gain reduction on that. We can get a little bit more volume out of it though, I will say that. Nice, even. You can see how even the levels are because the sounds get into them at the same time. The lefts and rights are even. The cymbals sound great, nice and wide. Let's check our compressor. We can back off just slightly, but not too much. Actually, I'm gonna keep it. Even when the snare's hitting loud, we're getting a couple of dBs of gain reduction. All that's doing is keeping the snare drum in the pocket so the snare doesn't get unwieldy and too loud, but we're not compressing it enough where everything gets super squashed, you know? You can hear it's very open, you know? While we're here, let's listen to the room stereos. We definitely need more volume, these aren't very loud right now. You can hear the difference between those two, right? The 414s sound way different than the Co's, and we want that. We really want that, you know? So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna solo these together and show you how much work in this room stereo a little bit. Wonderful. Listen to it without the room. Crazy. But then listen to the room without the overheads. Weird. We lose so much. So again, we're making one sound out of those two sets of mics. It's really important. In this room now, when I'm in bigger rooms like Capitol, I might have 3 or 4 sets of room mics. And in that case, all of those 6 or 8 mics are making one big sound. In this case, the room's a little smaller, so we really only have 2 sets of stereo mics. But there's been cases where I have 4 sets of stereo mics and I'm blending all those together to make one drum sound. Make sure the hi-hat, this should be pretty easy. Hear how isolated that is? That's wonderful. It's just, I mean, it's great. The SM7B is the perfect candidate for that because it's not too bright of a microphone. It's very low gain, so you can drive it up. And with its built-in pop filter on, we really, a lot of the rest of the drum set is canceled out, which is wonderful. So let's go ahead and listen to room mono. This is the AEA, not the crushed mic. Placement's everything, folks. You can hear the low end. We're getting a lot of low end from that. I mean, we're getting high end too, of course. It's gonna be there, but I'm actually gonna take a little high end out of that. At 8K, we're gonna take out 4 dBs of that. And you can really hear the low end. Again, when I start to compress that later on my mix, we're gonna be able to get a lot of nice, clear low end in the room out of that. That's the room mono. This is the room crush mic. Let's see if we can't get this to sound crazy. That's the sound. First thing I'm gonna do is cut a little high end out of it. So I don't really like how this sounds right now. And we're gonna come over here. Check my patch real fast. There it is. So in compressor mode, you can kind of hear I'm really slamming it. So this is bypassed, and this is compressed. I'm gonna try limiting mode and go to 20 to 1. I like that better. That's bypassed. That's 20 to 1 brick wall limiting it. I like that a lot. Again, this microphone is meant to be messed up and crunchy. And this only sets me up for later. I'm gonna be able to make that crunchier and weirder, you know? So let's hear this set now without the toms being tuned in yet. It's a great, really cool drum sound. Very focused. Can use a little bit more inside kick probably. There we go. But we're getting a great low end punch. We're getting great snare crack. The hi-hats are nice and focused. We're getting a lot of wideness from left to right on this set. Again, Dash is an amazing session player. He's played on, not lying, probably over 100 sessions for me at this point. I know him intimately, so I'm able to set this up to really feed his style and to feed the song. Sounds great. So, awesome. So now we're gonna try and get some tom sound, so. All right, dude. You sound good, as per usual. So let's do tom 1, tom 2. Let's just do tom 1 for a second. There we go. So again, mic placement does the work for us. Again, I put a little EQ in here. I'm boosting a little bit of 50 hertz and a little bit of attack at 7K, but even that being on doesn't do a whole, on or off doesn't do a whole lot. It's just microphone and placement. I cannot stress that enough. That sounds awesome. Let's hear tom 2. That was pretty good. So now we're gonna go back and forth between 1 and 2 so that we can hear the difference. And let's do 1, 2, 1, 2, please. So the floor tom's a little low in comparison, so we want a little more floor tom and a little bit less rack. Awesome.